Family, good to have you here with me today. Thank you for joining me. So, a little different setting today. I'm sitting in my living room, and I had some problems with my air conditioner. I know. And in Tennessee, you don't want to do that. It gets very, very warm. And it's right above my head where I podcast from. And the problem with that is that it makes a lot of noise when it's on. We had to hotwire it for a while, and it's always on. So I had to change locations, but I kind of like this. Feels quite intimate, and it's just a little. I record up in my loft. I live in a big log cabin, and this is kind of a nice setting behind me. Glad you're joining me today. So, if you're just joining me, would you let me know where you're watching from? I say that every week, but I love to see who's joining us from all around the world. And it's always good to have friends of Sanctuary joining us and being part of this program all the way through the program. If you have questions, comments, whatever, please just write them out wherever you're watching from, YouTube or Facebook or wherever it is. We're on several social media platforms all at the same time right now. And our illustrious, industrious producer, John Cassandro, will put you up on the screen. So we'd love to have you join the talk today. Got a great show ahead, folks. We've got Scott Waters here with us today, an old friend, and you know him from Ultimatum. You might know him from No Life Till Metal. Not only is he a great musician, but a phenomenal graphic artist. He's done a whole lot of things that you will recognize, and we'll talk about all of those things and kind of give his heart for the movement. He's been in it for a while. And my co-host today is Roger Dale Martin. He'll be with me in just a minute. And Roger Dale, from Vengeance, Scott actually took over the vocals for just a little bit. We'll talk about that brief period of time also, and lots of good memories with that too. So, folks, once again, if you're just joining me, sign in. Robert is here from Ames, Iowa. And he says, good morning. And he says, I have to catch recap driving home to Eagan, Minnesota. That's a long drive from Iowa. So you've got a little time ahead of you to drive with. And again, folks, sign in if you would. Let us know where you're from. Sonic Grace. She says, or he says, hola, dudes. Yeah. Little Spanish there. Hello. Well, we're all dudes, yes. AV, our good friend, is here. Good morning. How are you? Doing well. Thank you, AV. Can't wait to see Scott Waters. He's a good friend. Scott Waters is a good friend of a lot of us, and we appreciate his heart and his consistency in the Christian metal scene. And he's one of the builders. He's one of the good guys here, and I appreciate him so much. And looking forward to chatting with him. Noberto Rodriguez is here from El Paso, Texas. Again, great to see you too. People here from all over, including Kenya, Sanctuary, Kenya. Our good friend Jonas is here. Good morning, evening for you from Kenya. Missed last week's live show, so it's good to be back today, and we missed you too. And of course, we need to have an update soon, Jonas, on the new praise album that the guys in Kenya are doing, and heavy metal praise. That's going to be phenomenal. We're excited for that. David Kelly White from Colorado is here, and 53 degrees in Littleton. I love the fact, David, that things are getting a little cooler, and that's the way it is outside here too. Pretty soon, this fireplace behind me will be lit, and we'll have a real fire going too. That would be great. And so you know what it's like then, try a swamp cooler right next to my office. Yeah, well, that's what it sounds like up there right now. So I get it. It's just right above my head in the third floor in the attic up there. Albert, our good friend, is here from Canada, Ontario, Canada. Good morning to you. And folks, thank you for joining me. This is always such a great time together. Joel, our good friend here from Melbourne, Australia, he says it's midnight here. Yes, it is. And we're going to have our friend Phil from Australia, Sanctuary Australia, here soon again. And we want to talk about Australia and some of the things that are happening. And Joel, we appreciate you being with us today. It's awesome to have you here. Forrest Ray from Lansing, Michigan. There's two Michigan guys this morning. So good to have you here for us. Thank you for joining us. David says, need all your prayers this month. Pray for me. We will. Let's do it right now. Lord, I pray for David. I pray, Lord, that whatever his needs are, that you would meet them. And Lord, I pray that you touch him, that you give him strength, give him wisdom in Jesus' name. Amen. Blessed to you, David. Froggy Kruger. I like that. You know you've made it when you're joined by the frog. There you go. So my guest host today doesn't really need much of an introduction. You all know Roger Dale Martin. And Roger Dale, welcome to the show.
Hey, Pastor Bob.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yes. So Roger, as things are getting a little chilly here and we're going through some rain and the clouds are a little dark, you're sitting in sunny Florida.
I know. I had my sunglasses on. I'm going, that might be way too cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are going good. I can give you a quick shot. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Right there. Okay, I'm back in.
You got the ocean right there, right in your view.
Yeah. Ocean's my friend. We're getting along pretty good.
That's awesome. So, Roger, the question is, have you learned how to surf?
You know what? I did a long time, 30 years ago. If you remember Pastor Steve Valdez,
Yes.
he helped me to try to learn to surf. And I did some surfing with Holy Right, but I'm not doing that anymore. I go walk and I get my feet in, but I'm not a surfer anymore.
Yeah. Well, it gets your feet in, and you haven't tried walking on the water yet, right? Right there yet? Yeah. It's a spiritual thing we all attain to, isn't it? Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Roger, tell us, how are you? How are things?
I'm doing pretty good.
Doing well?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah, not bad. I've spent a lot of time in Oklahoma here recently, and but I'm back here now for a while, and
yes,
I've been enjoying it. Really enjoying the weather and enjoying everything
yes,
about
I bet you
what's happening. Yes,
beautiful there. So, Roger, we had a great time with the Yoga Fest this summer, and you know, are you feeling good about the performance and good about the band? And
oh yeah, I'm feeling really good about it. We I like Jeffrey, the drummer, and of course I like Steve Braun, the vocalist, and Nick is just completely awesome. Our once again, I'm still reeling. I'm still a little bit high, a little bit buzzed from Immortal Fest because it's such a fantastic show, and the people are so nice, and it's such a great time of fellowship. So I'm excited. I'm excited for our band, and I'm excited for the future of Immortal Fest.
Yes.
That's kind of a question mark. I really don't know. But yeah, I'm still buzzing from that, Pastor Bob. How about you?
Well, life is great, and I am excited for things that are happening, Roger, especially in our movement. At Immortal Fest and anytime we get together at concerts or whatever it might be, you realize how wonderful this family is.
Yeah.
The Christian metal family. And that's the best part for me. And the family is growing, maturing. Lots of new bands coming on the scene and some of the older bands jumping back in. And I love that. And it's just a wonderful time. So, Steve, you're singing. It's been part of our sanctuary here in Nashville. He and his wife were here on Sunday again for our church service, and love having those guys, love their hearts. But I love watching a whole lot of the older bands and the people that have been involved for a while still serving the Lord, still excited about learning, still growing in their faith. That's the best part for me, Rod. And speaking of that, we haven't talked about this. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Rod, you wrote this book, and it's the story of vengeance. And we're going to talk a little bit about this with Scott Waters today too. Um, but this is such a great book, not only the history of vengeance, but kind of a history of everything that was going on during that time. Tell us a little about the book. The book actually, you can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold, really. And you probably have to order it, but please do. It's a good read. Give us a synopsis, Roger, of the book. What is it about?
Well, the book is a whole lot about uh, my point of view from the early Christian metal scene, actually Sanctuary. Uh, I wrote a whole lot about Sanctuary and how I felt that God had taken a bunch of ragtag people like us and,
Yes.
and created a fantastic ministry. Um, and I took the reader through basically where I was at before I ever set foot in California. And I wanted to show the reader how God can take an ordinary person and and, uh, and take them places that they never would imagine. Now, as a musician, I started out young, and then of course I tried to be successful as a musician, but and only when I actually gave everything about being a musician to the Lord. Okay, I want to do this for the Lord's glory. That's when success started. That's when God said, okay, Roger's heart's right, and we're going to move forward in that area. And um, the book is a whole lot about the beginnings of how God had shipped me from Pleasant Hill, Oklahoma, just a little small place, and to the big city of Los Angeles, California. And I wanted to show the people who helped me. Um, there was bands. Emerald helped me a lot, and Dave Enos, Kyle Moret, the guys in Holy Rocks. They got a band right now um, called Iron Wrath, but back then they helped me a lot, and it was fun. Also, the book goes through the beginning stages of Sanctuary and how Sanctuary succeeded. Sanctuary could have easily been a cult um, or something that did not magnify and glorify God. But God, in His mercy, He helped all of us. And so that's my story. That's my point of view on that. I looked at Holy Soldier and I thought they were a key role player in the success of Christian metal.
Yes.
And I talked a lot about those guys. Now, when it comes to vengeance, I wanted to share what I wanted to share. There's when a lot of people will read the book and they'll say, "Oh, you left out a lot about vengeance." Well, um, I left out some dirt that I didn't think. I mean, I didn't want to share that. And but and as far as my opinion on things, I left that up to the reader. I did a series of reflections, is what I call reflections, and mostly it was about scripture. You make up your own mind about what happened with the clientele and things like that and vengeance.
Yeah.
And so that's how I presented the book from my point of view. Now, of course, my spiritual gift is exhortation or encouragement. I don't want to bring anybody down when I write. I want to encourage everyone. And I think the underlying encouragement that I wanted to give everybody is we are metal and we are family, and how we all pulled together as a team and we made vengeance work. We made vengeance a fantastic ministry, and I want to show that. I wanted to lift people up that had a key role in it. And I got to say, one of the people that I didn't talk too much about was Doug Van Pelt. Now, and I focused on White Throne magazine. Those guys are from San Francisco because they were the ones who actually they were the spark plug that got us going. But Doug Van Pelt was huge in bringing Heaven's Metal to the scene. His magazine just grew and grew and grew, and I didn't expand a whole lot on what Doug has done for Vengeance, and actually what he's done for me personally. He's promoted me. He's always said great things about me, and he's given me lots of exposure in his magazine. So today, I want to give kudos to Doug Van Pelt. He was a major player in Christian metal.
Yes, absolutely. And Raj, I think he still is as well. One of the things that we haven't announced yet, and we'll just do it right here, is that Doug is actually going to do a live show on Sanctuary, on the Sanctuary Network. He's one of our podcasters now, but he's going to be doing a live show, having bands in, questions about, the old days, just whatever he wants to do. But we're excited to have him back on the scene and talking about it again. Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it's going to be awesome. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Rod, we have had just some phenomenal people in this movement, haven't we? And it really has been and still is such a wonderful family. For me, it just gets better all the time. I see you, Scott Waters, and the people here that are part of Sanctuary every day. And my heart just kind of leaps whenever I see you because we're family, because we have that in common. Roger, you and I have known each other for, well, it'll be 40 years next year. 40 years. That's a long time to be family, isn't it?
Yes, it's a long time to be family. And also, I want everybody to know that I gave a lot of insight on Pastor Bob in the book. In fact, I wanted everyone to know what a key player he was in Vengeance Rising, and Sanctuary in general. My point of view is from 40 years of friendship and 40 years of being brothers in the Lord. That's my point of view in Pastor Bob. But once again, those who got the book, man, you can read, you can get the dirt on Pastor Bob. There's more dirt on Pastor Bob than anybody else. So if you want some, buy the book, find out.
Well, and Roger, the best memory for me was just kind of creating a road where there was none. None of us knew what we were doing. We really didn't. And it was teamwork. They say teamwork that makes the dream work, but it was teamwork that was inspired by the Holy Spirit and Spirit led. And we made mistakes that didn't go anywhere, but then we were able to kind of hear God's voice once in a while and follow it. And I that's just been phenomenal. It really has been phenomenal. And man, I love this movement. It just gets better all the time, and really, really great things happening. So, Raj, once again, people need to get this book. If you haven't read it yet, please do. And you can order it through Amazon or wherever. And, we need to get it out, Roger. You need to think about doing an audio book on this one. Seriously.
People have encouraged me to do that because of my southern accent, and they think that would be real cool. I'll reconsider that, Pastor Bob. Thanks for mentioning that.
You should. And you have such a great book. You are uniquely you. Your voice needs to be. You could have somebody else do the book, but it would be so great if you could. And if you want to do that, let me know. We'll make it happen. But Roger, these are precious memories. They really are. And I'm doing a podcast this week. I think it's tomorrow. Where we talk about, the history of Sanctuary, but the history of our movement, and just the wonderful foundation that God laid in spite of us, not because of us, in spite of us, because we've always been if I can coin the phrase, we've always been a motley crew. We always have been. I love that part. Well, Roger, we have Scott Waters coming, and I know you're anxious as well to see him and talk to him. Great guy, very instrumental in this movement, very much a part of building this family. And we want to talk about the times that he actually stepped in and was a singer with Vengeance, and get some of your. We don't want to go through the dirt of that time. We just want to talk about the positive aspects of that time, what it might have been like for him, from a perspective on stage with the band that was able to reach a whole lot of people for Jesus Christ. That's the best part. But that's the best part. So, folks, we've got Scott Waters coming up. Roger Dale is going to be back with us too. We will have Scott join us in just a minute. Let me just say that, folks, our fall blend is here. It's called not another pumpkin spice, but it is another pumpkin spice, but it's the best one. And this we're putting together with all the rest of our lineup, 9 different blends besides this one. This makes number 10. And again, all of the proceeds from our coffee, Headbangers Brew, and we're back with our special guest today. Not that Roger isn't special, he's the other special guest. But Scott Waters is here with us. Scott, great to have you on the show today. Welcome, Scott. We can't see you yet.
There I am. Hey, so, Roger, how's it going?
You look even better than the picture, so that's better. There, now we go. Scott, how great to have you on the show today. I appreciate you taking some time out. Roger, it's good to see him.
Hey, Scott, how's it going, brother?
Good, Roger. If I could give you a big hug, I would.
Yes, there you go. So, Scott, we have a lot to talk about. It's I'm excited to not only talk about some of the old days, but to talk about No Life Till Metal and the things that you're doing today. Great things. But, Scott, when we talk about people that have been a huge part in formulating the things that are going on in Christian heavy metal today, we have to talk about Scott Waters, because Scott, you've not only been involved with the music aspect, but you've been involved in kind of steering a lot of the graphics and a lot of other things in this movement with a lot of bands. And so we want to get into that as well. And Roger Dale, if you can hear me, I think you're muted. So make sure that, there you go, you're fine now. So,
okay.
Roger, I
I want to talk first of all about a little bit of history. And there was a time when Vengeance was without a singer. We won't go into all that. But you guys decided that Scott would be a great fit. Scott had at the time his band called Ultimatum, really great band. And you guys decided that Scott could fill this role for a while. Talk about that decision. What do you remember during that time?
That was a fantastic time. Now Scott got into the picture. We were a lot of excitement at the time about Vengeance, about doing another Vengeance show, and I wanted Scott. I definitely wanted Scott as lead vocalist because Scott had the look that I've always thought mattered when it comes to lead vocalist. Scott at the time was super buff, really cut, long hair like we all had back in the day, and a great singer too. Scott helped us a lot as far as with our social media at the time, and we put together a video. We did so much for us behind the scenes. There's so much work that has to be done behind the scenes. We're talking about computer work and stuff like that before you ever see a video.
Yes.
Or anything like that. Scott stepped up to the plate. He knew all the songs. He did a fantastic job, and we played a show. We did a video of the concert, and I love the concert. Now, Scott has helped us before. We played Cornerstone with Scott one time, and man, that was a killer show. Me and Scott, it seemed like our time on stage was always fun, and we could communicate with each other on stage. He could say, "Roger, make a muscle," and I would make a muscle, and we were in sync with that kind of thing. Scott, I wanted Scott as me personally. I wanted Scott as the lead vocalist for Vengeance because he had the attitude, and he was laid back. But on the stage, he had the attitude. He knew what it took to be a vocalist, and knew what it took. I mean, once again, he had a great stage presence, and our communication was fantastic on stage. And there was I don't know. That Cornerstone was very, very memorable because we had a mishap there, and Scott, he was quick on his feet, and anyway, he stepped up to the plate. Now, and that's as far as the lead vocals. And then we had our time. There's a time for things to happen, and there are times for it to dissolve. And I think it was perfect. And Scott really did fantastic for us and stepped up to the plate for Vengeance. Now, as far as me personally, Scott has helped me a lot, so much. When I was doing the solo thing, and as far as I played in churches in Nashville for years and years, basically decades, and then when it was time for me to get back into the Christian metal scene, Scott helped me tremendously. I said, "Scott, could you do this for me? Could you make a little video for my social media?" He said, "Yeah, Roger, I can do that." And then he put together so much. And when it comes to Reign of Glory, I'll tell you what, Scott. Scott's another person I didn't focus on in the book, but Scott was huge in the Christian metal community and the success of it. He, there's so many, no kidding. I just said, Scott, could you do this for me? Yeah, I can do that, Roger. Roger, I can do that. And he'd do it. Sometimes he'd drop things and do things for me, and I know he did, and I appreciate it for him. But as far as, and Reign of Glory, he put us on the map. In fact, Scott Waters himself, because he loved our album so bad. The first one, All Will Bow, Immortal Fest, they called us, said, "Roger, we want you." And that was all because of Scott. Scott, thank you, brother. You got us on stage twice. And that was all, that was all Scott's doing. And I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you very much, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great times. What great memories. I mean, and how many years ago has that been now?
Oh, I got to tell you this one story real quick. Now, of the first, we went on tour with Vengeance, and man, in the first show, it was horrible. I tried to expand on this. I couldn't remember as much as I wanted to write this in the book. But Scott was a major player. You know, the Scott, our first show on tour was playing with Ultimatum, and the actual promoter locked us in after the show, pulled a gun on us, held a gun to her, and said, "You're going to give me this and that and this and that." And Scott was with us there. So not everything about Christian metal was all rosy and goody goody two shoes. And so I think Scott's presence there kind of helped diffuse the volatile situation. But once again, Scott's a buff dude, and he handled the situation correctly. And anyway, we got out of there. Things happened, and we went on with the tour because it could have been a disaster. Everything could have stopped there. Once again, there's Scott Waters to the rescue. Appreciate you, Scott.
That's awesome. Barry Mancaruso is joining us. Okay, the wife of the old drummer from Sanctuary, yeah. And her and Glenn, of course, are part of our church here in Las Vegas. But love those guys. Yes.
Yeah, so, that story at the club was interesting because it was actually not Ultimatum. It was the Moshketeers that was. You remember Paul Skazafov and the Moshketeers? That's who was opening the show. But I was there and I was helping run the Vengeance merch booth at that show. And they would have been, what, 1990, 1991. They were on the Once Dead tour. And yeah, at the end of the show, they closed the doors and I was putting everything away for the band. And yeah, the club owner pulled a gun on all of us and he wanted merch. He wanted part of the merch sales, and that wasn't in the contract, so it became a big deal until the police got there. So yeah, we were kind of locked in the club for, I don't know, what was it, 2 hours until the police got there, and we all just sat around, and Roger Martinez basically gave a Bible study. So yeah. it was weird, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that is so awesome. What great memories, huh? Really great memories.
Yeah.
So Scott, tell us, what was it like for you? This was, it's one thing to sing for your own band, and Ultimatum was doing very well during those days. You guys were doing a lot of concerts, and all of a sudden you step into a role that, in Vengeance, it's a little different than Ultimatum. There's some things you guys had in common, but kind of a different role. How did that feel for you from the stage with Vengeance?
On the stage, I was comfortable as could be. I mean, I was used to being on stage, and I loved playing with those guys. And so, yeah, on the stage, I was comfortable as could be. Now, when I met them the first time, when we went to practice together, I was actually only supposed to sing for one concert. It was supposed to be for the reunion show that was being billed as Once Dead, Return with a Vengeance. That was recorded for the DVD. So I went out a week early before the show, and we booked a practice studio. And I don't know, 3 days in a row, we got together and practiced. And I was kind of nervous about it because I'd never played with these guys, didn't know them, and they were I was a fan, so I was kind of like a fanboy coming in, and so that was my, I was a little nervous about that. But I brought a couple things with me. I brought my Vengeance record. I brought an old Vengeance Rising photograph, and after the first practice, I had all the guys sign it, and they looked at me like, "Why are you having us sign this?" And I was like, "Man, I learned an important message from Eric Carr from Kiss. Eric Carr went in for his tryouts with Kiss, and he brought his Kiss record, and he had them all sign it. And when the guys asked him why afterwards, he's like, I may never see you guys again, so I might as well get my record signed." And so that's the same thing I told the guys in Once Dead when I was there doing those practices. So yeah, but yeah, I was very comfortable on stage. It was awesome being on stage with those guys. I got to say one thing about Vengeance: Larry Farkas makes the best guitar faces of anybody. I love watching that guy play guitar.
As do we all, absolutely. Yeah, he's the guitar god, isn't he?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's awesome at it. I love talking about memories. We have a lot of them straight ahead, folks, and we're going to continue with Roger and Scott. A couple of things I want to mention in the meantime, though, before we continue with the show. A couple of announcements that I want to make. So this weekend, we are joining forces with my good friend Chief Hemble. And well, James, the police chief, and I have a show, as you know, called The Odd Couple. And he's also a pastor, as am I. And we're, like it says here, we're getting together and bringing our churches with us. And if you can imagine our heavy metal worship team with the black gospel worship team. And this is the second time we've done this, folks. If you haven't been part of this gathering before, please come. If you're in the Nashville area, First Missionary Baptist Church in Franklin, Tennessee, and that's this Sunday. And then the following Saturday is our gathering here at Sanctuary. And as you know, we work a lot with food ministry and, well, all kinds of ministry, but our biggest one is food. And we work with several ministries that reach out to people on the streets, the homeless, people that are in rehab, people that are coming out of prisons, all of that. But one of the very unique things we do is human trafficking, child trafficking, women trafficking. And I've asked some of the folks that we work with to come and to be on a panel with us. So we've got folks from Rescue One will be here with us and talk about child trafficking. And they're very involved with it. And we help to provide food for people that are taking in children. We have rest stop ministries, women that go to the rest stops and work with the ladies there. As you know, there's a lot of trafficking going on in that location too. And then my good friend Rachel Timothy will be here. If you haven't read her book, a phenomenal book about her trafficking experience. She was trafficked from the time she was 9 years old in her church. Her father was a pastor. And not that her father was involved, but the elders were. And that and her school. And it's a sad and incredible story. And I'm excited for her to share some of it. All these people will be on a panel for our gathering. And then, of course, the next day, Sunday, we have our church service as usual. We call it 242 at the Storehouse. Teach, Meet, Eat, Pray. We do every single Sunday. And so all of that coming up. Don't miss any of that if you're in the Nashville area. If you're not in the Nashville area, it's worth a drive. Come on. So, folks, straight ahead, we've got some more with Scott Waters. Roger Dale Martin will be back with us, and we've got some things to share right after this. And we're back with my co-host, Roger Dale Martin, and our special guest, Scott Waters. Great to have you guys both here. We've had a great time talking about some of the early days of Vengeance and Ultimatum. I want to go back there, if we could, just for a minute. And Scott, you know, it's I mentioned at the beginning of the show that there are specific people that have really helped to shape this industry, that have really helped in throughout all of these years, graphically, musically, and in every way, to kind of shape what this industry has become. And if I were to list 10 people, if I could list 10 people that I feel like have been the most hands-on and have done probably some of the best work in shaping an industry and defining its perimeter spiritually, you would be one of those 10. I appreciate all of your work all of these years. The exciting part for me, and I know Roger will agree too, is that you're not done yet.
Nope.
That you're still going strong. And I'd love to talk about No Life Till Metal. Now, your graphics, we could talk about, and let's do all of your graphics on so many albums, especially on Rock's record. So many albums, so many different things that you've done. And then your album reviews, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. Want to get your take on the scene today, some up and coming artists that maybe you're excited about and that you're writing about, and as far as some new artists on the scene, and then maybe some older things as well. But define No Life Till Metal for us, if you would.
So No Life Till Metal started as my website, just a review website back in, I think, 1999, when the internet was fairly new. I started that website, and this website's still there. I don't update it anymore because I just frankly don't have time, but that's where it started with that. And then I've been working in the printing and graphics industry since I got out of college in 1989. I'm dating myself now, but I worked at the same company for 37 years. And about 30 years into it, I'm sorry, 27 years, about 20 years into it, the company got new management there, and the new management was pushing a lot of people out. And I had been there a long time, and I was actually, mid-management myself. I was head of the graphics department, and that new management came in, and they just were pushing and pushing and pushing. And frankly, I was getting a lot of verbal abuse, cussing, put downs. Just I don't want to go real deep into it, but my wife and I just started praying. It's like, I can't take this anymore. It was beating me down. But I had kids in college, so I couldn't just quit my job, and I needed to continue to make money. So for the next 2 years, my wife and I just prayed, what do we do next? What do we do next? Let's get you out of there. And we just decided, you know what? Let's go into let's have you do your own graphics business. She goes, I make enough, we can scrape by. It's just what we make. So once that 2 years is done, we'll get you out of there, because my daughter was out of college, and that's exactly what happened. So I literally drove down like 6 months before quitting my job at the printing company, and I got my business license, and I gave Matthew Hunt a call from he's Retroactive Records and Brutal Planet Records, and I said, hey, I just got my business license. I'm going to be doing graphic design. If you need any help, he's give me a call and let me know. He goes, you're never going to believe this. He goes, but I just fired my graphic designer. He goes, I need somebody. You're hired. So literally the same day I got my business license, he hooked me up with that. And I had already been doing graphics for Rock's Records as well. So I had those two already that I was working with. So that was, an easy start to doing No Life Till Metal graphics, which has become my graphics business.
Yes. So you've done so many album covers and so much graphically, and even though you and I haven't seen each other, we've been involved in some of the same projects, basically. Mm-hmm. But give us a little synopsis of the album covers that you're most proud of that you've done.
Actually, I should have pulled some, huh? I actually have them right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you some. I have some right here. Here's one I did recently. But I don't always, the covers aren't the main thing. I probably do 2 to 3 layouts a day, at least 2 layouts a day, for the labels that I work for. So it's not always doing the cover art, but this is one that I did. This is a newer band that I really, really like. Christian band called Transcendent.
Yes. The
name of the album is Awaken, obviously. And I created the album cover for them and did the whole layout. So it's, it's not just the front covers. A lot more goes into it than just the front covers. One of the things that I also do. Oops, sorry. I don't know if they can see that or not, but my screen popped away.
Yes, we can.
But anyhow, one of the other things that I do is that I do a lot of this now is cover restoration. So this is the very first Petra album from 1974, and even though it has a Girder logo on here, this is actually for Curb Word Records, and they didn't have any of the original artwork, and they were like, okay, we need you to restore the cover. So I go in and I scan the artwork at a really, really high resolution on a really expensive scanner that I bought several years ago. I do something called descreening, which most people probably don't know about, but if you know anything about printing, it's all made up of little dots.
Yes.
Most of them are called rosette patterns, which is kind of an industry thing. But if you ever watch the news or TV sometimes, and some guys wearing like a tweed shirt and it like gives that weird pattern on the TV, that's called a moire pattern, and that's because the shirt looks like dots, and then you've got dots on the screen, and then the two dots go over top each other, and it makes those weird patterns. So if you ever see an album cover and it's got that weird pattern on it, it's because it wasn't descreened properly, and they just printed dots on top of dots, and that's why it looks so bad.
Right.
Yeah, it's a process, but I do a lot of this stuff, not just for the rocks and retroactive and Girder, but now I'm doing it for right there. That was for Curb Word Records, and I've done stuff with licensing from Metal Blade and Century Media Records. So it's been awesome. But yeah, I like doing the covers, but the layouts is what I really love doing.
So I have to tell you, I bought that album when it first came out, and I still have it.
You're dating yourself.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you would have told me 20 years ago that I'll be working and doing Petra and Resurrection Band and other kind of research like that, I would have laughed at you.
It'd be great.
I'll give you
honestly, it's all part of being part of this family. It's amazing how God connects us all together, don't you think?
Yes, and I can even tell you just amongst, because I work with a lot with Rocks Records and Girder Records, Retroactive Records, and Soundmass Records out in Australia. And all four of those labels are Christian labels. And I can tell you, even amongst those four labels, that they really love each other and root for each other to do well. And you'll see constantly, Retroactive Records pushing Rocks Records stuff and Rocks Records pushing Girder Records stuff, because, those guys, they realize we're all in this for the same reason. We want to... Obviously, we all love music and we want to share the music, but we also, want to be an example of the change that God made in our lives. And
yes.
That's not something I've ever seen before, where competing companies push for each other and actually root for each other's companies to do really well. So I think that's awesome.
I love that. And that's part of the family that we share. And I have to say, Scott, and I know Roger would probably agree that it really comes through in your art. I always feel the I guess, if you can say, the depth of the artwork. It speaks of the glory of God to a whole family. And Roger, that's been the coolest thing for me with his artwork, is just how it relates so well, how he stays current, and how when you see it, you feel something a little deeper than the album artwork. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Very good job.
Pastor Bob, when we were doing All of Val, and I was talking to, of course, I'm talking to Scott about what we're going to do with this album cover. I said, well, first thing I'd like for you to do, Scott, is listen to the whole album as if you're listening here. And then Scott did that, and then what he came up with was this phenomenon. I love it, but he didn't just throw something together for us. He really thought about it, and he really listened to the music. And I believe because he listened to the music,
yes,
what came out was much more creative and much more matched the product.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a big deal. That's an art. Speaking of that, I appreciate the fact that you're still reviewing music. Also, Scott, and here's the $1 million question of the bands that are coming out these days, and there are a lot of new bands on the scene as well. Tell us some bands that you're excited about.
I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a. It's actually a reissue coming out. I just pulled this over, and it's not been announced yet. Nobody knows anything about it, but I don't know if anybody remembers this band from back in the '80s. Follower.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is completely remixed, remastered by Rob Caldwell at Bombworks Sound with a new cover that I worked on. The band didn't like this cover. So yeah, this is going to be coming out on Rocks Records at the end of this year. So, and if you don't know who Follower is, these guys basically, after they put out this release, they all went their separate ways, but all these guys became very famous in the music industry, specifically Kerry Crafton, who became a big time producer working with bands like Pantera, among others. And then Brian Wooten, who played guitar on this album, ended up being in Whiteheart for 8-9 years. And then after Whiteheart, he went into Petra and recorded on albums like God Fixation and other albums like that for Petra. So, and I think every single one of these guys ended up becoming, getting into music industry in some different way and doing something great. So I just happened to have this one sitting here, so I thought I'd brag on that a little bit because it's a fantastic album. But now new bands, gosh, there was just so much stuff coming out. It's hard to tell. I just showed you the Transcendent. I should have thought to pull some stuff to push on here, but here's another one that we worked on recently. But this is a band, Shining Force. This just came out. These guys are fairly new. I think they only have like 1 or 2 albums out, but it's power metal. Love the power metal scene, especially coming out of Brazil. There's a lot of great bands coming out of Brazil.
Yes, a lot of great bands. Yes.
Yeah. Keep your eyes open on. I'm giving more secrets away here. Keep your eyes open on Soundmass Records, because Soundmass is going to be putting out a couple albums from the band Allos, Allos, from Brazil, and that is also power metal. And they're also putting out the new The Hero album, which I don't also think has been announced. So I guess I'm letting the cat out of the bag there too. But so there's some great music coming out of Brazil. There's some great music coming out of everywhere. Trying to think what else.
So
it's just. I work on so much stuff, sometimes it's hard to remember what I did.
So, Scott, our friend Jonas from Sanctuary Kenya in Africa is asking, what is the impact of AI on your business? Do you see any impact?
Yeah, eventually I think AI will take over doing cover art, and it seems to be happening more and more. My thing is that I can see a cover on Facebook or whatever, and I can instantly tell it's been done with AI. I'm not a huge fan of that. It takes away jobs from people like myself, and I keep telling musicians the same thing. I'm like, do you think you're replacing the artist and using AI? It's going to replace you as well, because AI is also doing music now, and I've heard some power metal songs created completely in AI. You would not be able to tell. It just sounds like some great, European power metal band.
Yes.
However, I'm a graphic designer. I'm not necessarily an artist in the traditional sense. I'm a graphic designer. I have to work smarter, not harder. So I have been using AI to my advantage here and there. Literally just started. I just did an album cover for Bill Mention's band, can't remember the name of the band, but anyhow, one of Bill Mention's releases, and I needed an image of a warrior angel statue, like you would see like at a graveyard or something like that. Yes. And I went into all the different sites that I use to download art. I usually use Adobe Stock because I can pay for the royalties so we don't get sued. But I went to all these different sites looking for this statue, and all I could find was images of like cherubs and like sad ladies doing this on the it was not what I was looking for. I wanted a strong warrior statue. So I was like, let me go try something in AI. So I went into AI, I created that statue I wanted, and then I took that image, which I would have downloaded off of Adobe Stock anyhow, and blended it and made my own cover from it. So that's actually my first time using AI, and it came out fantastic. So The Seventh Power is the name of the band. Yeah, from Bill Mention.
And I find myself using it too, that I never thought, we were all so negative about it when it first came out, and afraid that it was, the robots were going to take over the world and, that kind of thing. But, I do a lot of writing, and one of the biggest problems for me is, the looking through everything and correcting grammar and spelling and, proofreading. And my good friend James, the police chief, said, "Have you ever thought of just sending that through, the AI program and having it correct everything?" And I thought, and I was a little leery of doing it. I sent it through, corrected everything perfectly, and I thought, wow, I guess, I guess there is a good use for it. But yeah, I think, I'm not afraid of it replacing us, because there's one thing that AI still can't do, and that's perform live.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I also use AI for like a band will send me their lyrics, and the lyrics will be like in all caps, which I can't stand because it's hard to read. So
Yeah.
you can run it through an AI program and say, and just tell it capitalize the first letter, and it'll fix it all for you. So I use AI here and there for things like that, but to create a whole album cover, I don't think I ever would do that, because it's just, I don't know, it's to me it's like almost cheating. It's like it would be
Yes.
like it would be like Ultimatum going in, hey, we have a new album coming out, but we didn't write any of the songs, we let AI do it all. So yeah, that's
And
just
the human aspect of that, Scott, and this is typical of your work, is that you not only take something, but you add some depth to it. And I don't think you can do that unless you feel it first.
yep,
And
I agree.
yeah, that it just doesn't happen. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see coming forward? Where do you see our movement going for both of you guys, for Roger and for Scott? Scott, what do you think? What's coming up?
Well, one of the things that I can tell you that I discussed with, and I've been discussing over the last few years with the record labels that I work for, is they want to be as professional and as good as the mainstream counterparts.
Yes.
And that's something we've worked very hard on. And I'm going to give a shout out to John DeLaurentis. I don't know if anybody knows him or not, but behind the scenes, John DeLaurentis is my, and I can't think of a better word, but he's my savior. not
Yeah.
in the word of saved my life, but man, that guy has saved my butt so many times, because for and any graphic designer will know this, when you stare at a project for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in a day, it's easy to read over a simple mistake, a typo on the front cover, typos throughout the book, or simple stuff, because you in your mind what it says, so you read over it. Well, John DeLaurentis for all these labels in the background, and Craig Phillips is another one. They go in and they double check and they find all those mistakes, so that in the past, there has been some really low quality, poor releases in the Christian community coming through record labels, and I can honestly say that Girder and Rocks and Retroactive and Soundmaster, those guys really push hard to be as professional and as quality as they can be. So, and then another one I'll mention is even the music. Rob Caldwell at Bombworks Sound, he's been doing a lot of the mastering for a lot of these bands. He's fantastic. I mean, this guy's done everything from from Petra to mainstream bands like Nevermore and Hellstar and all those kind of bands. So
Oh,
I think the scene is getting more professional, which is good. It's meeting more people, but I don't think the message is getting watered down either. At least not that I'm seeing. Most of the bands that been working with have been pretty outspoken about their faith, which I think is fantastic.
yes.
Then again, I don't mind a band like, say, like the Galactic Cowboys, who are less. They're still believers, and their music still has that element to it, but they're not as outspoken as some of the other bands. I think there's room for both of them in the scene, and they
Yes.
both serve a purpose.
Yes. I totally agree. Roger Dale, what do you see coming up? You have any for that?
What I see is what I want to expand on. Pastor Bob, you said a while ago, AI can do almost everything except play live.
Yeah.
And what I've been focusing on recently is actually playing live. I found a little church here in Cocoa Beach that actually plays live. I'm actually on the worship team right now. There is no backing tracks. There is no click track. There is nothing. It's old school, and it's quite challenging because the talent level of everyone is at different levels, and so.
Yeah.
So I've actually been focused on tuning into other musicians, the human aspect of music, and enjoying the actual playing of the bass. Um, it really is. I think Immortal Fest got me fired up for playing live again, and that's something that humans, that people want that human element. And a lot of churches want that. I quit playing in church because it became almost like everything was recorded and it was a fake
Yes.
lip syncing. But I'm not doing that now, and it's quite the challenge. And you got to think on your feet. You got to play the bass, and it's sharp. So that's where I'm at. I'm still focused on a live performance festival. I'm focused on nutrition. I'm focused on working out because I feel like I've got some more live shows inside of me, and so I'm going to do my part and stay in shape and keep my licks up and be ready for what's coming next.
Awesome. John, put up that last comment from Sonic Grace, if you would. Great comment. And he's talking about the failure of AI. He said AI is cool, but our imperfections are what give us character. I like that. And that's really true, isn't it? Scott, what do you think about that?
100% agree. We're talking about Vengeance here. Think about the very first Vengeance album. That album has all kinds of flaws on it, right? But it's what gives it its charm. I mean, there's a spot where Roger sings a little piece of the song that's not supposed to be there. I never knew that until I sang for the band, but I've always just thought it was part of the song. But like I said, it's one of the things I love about that album, or even like something like Metallica's Kill 'Em All. It's that very raw, youthful energy that you can there is no way AI could capture that. And like I said, the same thing with Vengeance Rising's first album. It just had that raw, youthful energy, something you can't capture. There's no way a computer can capture that.
Absolutely. Let me just give you a memory for a second. I remember when Barren Cross did their live album. And I remember walking up to the stage to introduce the band. It's actually on the album too. And just the whole crowd, just the I guess the enthusiasm and the intensity of the crowd ready to go. And this big recording studio, mobile recording studio, was all outside, hooked to the board and, recording everything live. And just the electricity in there that night was amazing. But I remember when the album came out, the main comment was, it's so good to hear them live and not so practiced. The intensity was a lot more, and people felt it from the live show, which is the beauty of a live show, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was actually, you're talking about, there's another band that is making some waves right now. Speaking of Barren Cross, it's got Michael Drive on vocals and George Ochoa from Deliverance and Recon on guitar, and Terry the Animal Russell from Holy Soldier, thank you, on drums, and Todd. I can't remember his last name for the reason, but he was also in Recon and among some other bands. So anyhow, this is another new band. Even though it's made up of some veteran musicians, it's very well done music, very modern. If you're looking for Barren Cross, it's not what this is. They're reaching a whole new crowd with this, in my opinion, and it's a great album and it's got great lyrics.
And actually, George lives in the same city that I do, the same town that I do, and he's recording it in his own recording studio, which is
absolutely
awesome. But it's got that intensity. I agree. Guys, we need to do this again. This was a lot of fun. And Scott, would you come back with us, with Roger
absolutely.
and I? And let's talk about new bands. Let's talk about Reign of Glory. There's the other one. Yes. Yeah. 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 And Roger Dale, phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff. And you're having a lot of fun with that one, aren't you?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, we want to do this some more. And Scott, you be thinking about some bands that you can talk about possibly, or talk about some of your projects. Roger Dale, let's keep the memories going, especially. We want to talk about what you see for the future as well. Sure enjoyed having you guys on with me today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
It's been great. Folks, thank you for joining us today. It's always been a good time when we can spend some time with the family and spend some time with old and new bands and people in the industry and people that we deeply care about that are part of our metal family. We are metal, we are family, as we always say.
Folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.
Hey everybody, Glenn Kaiser. I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed this particular edition of Sanctuary Live, hit the subscribe button. And recognize too, you can follow on all the different platforms for Sanctuary Live. You can find all sorts of things and grow and grow. And by the way, the beauty of all of this is that we can do it loud because we're metal and we're family.